Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Susan MeeLing, Lady MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, Lady MeeLing America. I've been known by a couple of names. Few, whatever. Anyway, so today is the 10th of May, 2020. Happy Mother's Day to all of the good moms out there. And personal opinion. But nonetheless, Happy Mother's Day. So, Happy Mother's Day to the First Lady and the Second Lady of the United States of America. Happy birthday, or Happy Mother's Day to Miss Ivanka, as well as Junior's ex-wife, but also Miss Guilfoyle, because they're moms. Happy Mother's Day to Laura Trump, and then Happy Mother's Day to the mothers of, well, of course, Happy Mother's Day to Second Lady Miss Pence, Miss Karen Pence, but also to the mothers of her grandchildren. Happy Mother's Day. And then Happy Mother's Day to all in Congress and Senate and the Pentagon and Justice Department, FBI, CIA, law enforcement, not just the ones who actually are working, but also the spouses of, because you're still working. And being a mom is not, it's a constant thing at all times, just saying, in all of the branches of the United States of America's armed forces, to those who are in the military, as well as those who are dependents of, but still moms. And so, the list goes on and 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 on. Nonetheless, Happy Mother's Day. And so, whatchamacallit, I had, many years ago, and I'm talking pre-head injury, I had a question about a specific song I heard. Specific song. And it'll tie into Mother's Day, ironically, quite coinkadinkly. And so, this particular song that I had heard, I didn't understand it. I genuinely did not understand it. I understood a lot of songs that I grew up hearing, and of all different types of genres. Granted, growing up in New Jersey and going to New York, usually I heard only a couple of type of genres. When moving to Illinois, on the other hand, that would be when I was introduced to other genres. And there's this one song I heard once. I just couldn't understand the words. I could understand the melody. I could understand the notes. I could understand the composition. But the words, I could not understand. Now, albeit at that time, I was also quite focused in regards to getting myself into getting myself squared away so that way I could join the military for the United States of America's Armed Forces. So upon hearing this song, it was just, I don't understand, like it's just not making sense to me. Like any other song I can understand. I can get it. I mean, anything from classical with and without the operatic aspects of, because there are pieces that you can hear on the radio now from like the times of Bach and Tchaikovsky and Mozart, and much, much, much earlier than their compositions. And you don't have the operatic aspects for those songs because they had written the operatic aspects on different sheets of music paper to go along with those songs. So it's one of those, okay, I can pick that up. I can hear that and that sort of stuff. However you want to put it in that regard of hearing that. And so, in regards to, and some of them do, some of them I think I've heard that have had some of the operatic composition that has gone along with some of them on the radio. More of them are more modern day instrumentals of the compositions that they have written. However, the ones where even prior to those guys, where you only get to hear the instrumental, you don't get to hear the operatic, which is a shame, and it is, because the operatic aspects that went along with some of those compositions. No offense to Pavarotti and the Three Tenors, they did and do quite wonderful singing, however, you can be jealous of that. Especially those into classical music and listening to those. Yes. Don't be mad at me though. Just don't be jealous in a bad way, please. It's just the operatic aspects of when those songs were originally composed. Anyway, so in regards to this one song, I could not understand it. And giving that as a background gives you like kind of a, wait, what? You can, what? What do you mean you know about these operatic aspects, but you couldn't understand a modern day song? What? But I couldn't. And so I heard this song when I was in Illinois, and I just could not understand it. So while I was getting myself prepared for being able to graduate early, partially being upset because I could only graduate half a semester early instead of a full semester early. The dream that I had when I was in New Jersey in regards to the World Trade Center had only been in a very small amount compared to what I remembered. And so it's one of those, okay, I can feel it. Like I can feel it getting closer. The other aspects in regards to New York City. And I can see certain pieces coming together, and I'm getting more and more nervous because I know, I can feel it. I have to get this taken care of. Because if I don't, and not to be all, what is it, superhero-y or super heroine-y or whatever the word is. But I know that I have to. Because if I don't, I can see the other side of that. And I would rather the aspects to prevent the other side of that be able to be handled. Because I'd rather everybody, despite certain aspects, which will go into the song lyrics when I get to it, I just could not get ready quick enough. I couldn't. It was just It's one of those, why is time moving so slowly? Like, why are all of these obstacles in my way when I'm trying to make sure that everything is taken care of? What is going on? Why is this such an issue? So on and so forth. And mind you, by the time I moved to Illinois, because of my biological parents moving my biological sister and I to Illinois, that was 1998. I had the dream starting around the late 80s, early 90s. And 1993 was the first portion of it, and it was just, no. This needs to be taken care of. This needs to be prevented because of the possibilities that I could see, where it was like, if this does happen, then this will be prevented. If this doesn't happen, then this will occur. And just these different intricacies. And so, how do I get myself in the correct place at the correct point in time where it's absolutely mandatory? Because I feel it's getting closer. And so I had already, from 1993, well, even before then, I had been looking into military stuff and historical aspects beyond just school, and just, I gotta get this stuff squared away. People in the church congregation of Old Tennant Presbyterian Church, where I grew up going to, when the 93 attack occurred, despite the fact that I was still sick and recuperating, it was one of those, I have questions, and I need to ask you these questions. And so, they knew that I was on the road to recovery, so I was like, okay, what is it? That sort of stuff. It was one of those, I have these questions. And then when, then in regards to when I was actually completely better, then I was able to, what about this? What about this? What'd you do here? What'd you do there? What happened? What happened? What happened? And, I was able to get certain answers. They thought, the mainly males at that time, though there were a few females, they thought it was sweet because I was genuinely concerned. It's not that I wasn't, I was genuinely concerned, but I was asking questions that made some of them think in different ways. And so, it wasn't to be negative, it wasn't to cause problems, it was like, hey, well, what about this situation? And it didn't matter who the congregant was of the church. It realistically didn't matter. I knew that there were people who made commentary about certain couples that were together. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but okay, whatever. I don't care. That is the least of my concerns of importance as to what you think of them. Like, I really just don't care. Like, you can run your mouths and, that's your choice, but that doesn't change the love that they have for one another, nor does that change who they are, and I really don't care. Like, your opinion of them, I don't care. I don't see what you're complaining about when, but I'm not even going to go into that aspect. I'll just keep my mouth shut on that and just think a bunch. And so, in Illinois, I was getting prepared. I was speaking with the guys that I felt comfortable with, and despite the fact that my biological mother wanted me to be friends with more females, it was one of those, no, I don't think you understand. There are some females I can get along with, but I get along with males much better, at least at that time, than nowadays there are certain types of males that just, ugh. Anyway, um, just saying. And so, the majority of guys that I hung out with, as far as like friend-wise, some of them went military, some of them didn't. You know, it just was one of those, it wasn't the exact same, obviously, for everyone, but it was one of those, we talked. So, like, for an example, Dale and I would spend hours talking. And I did not care what other people thought about that. It was one of those, I really don't care about your opinion. Like, some people would ride by on their bicycles and then come and speak with me, you know, the next day at school. You know, oh, I saw your name. Yeah. And what? Point being? What's your point? I don't care. Like, that's my point. I don't care what your opinion is about who I speak with. And if he actually knew how many people did that, it was probably annoy him, realistically. But nonetheless, it was just one of those, it didn't matter. I didn't care what other people's opinions were. It was one of those, you have your own issues, and that's your own issues. It's not my problem, that's your problem. And that went along in various ways. And, you know, another example is Kenny. And it didn't bother me that there were people who were like, oh, well, you know, I don't care that he doesn't play as much as so-and-so. I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. He's a lot better of a person than so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. So if you have a problem with the fact that, I don't care, don't care. It's a lot, but it's not even forgetting you. Then just saying, run your mouth. Don't make me get a cafeteria table. I didn't say that part, but in my thoughts it was. Don't make me get a cafeteria table. And usually before I ever continued to speak afterwards, usually they'd see this little gleam in my eye and just be like, so, you know, we're just gonna let you know that we don't like, I don't care. And then they skedaddle, and it's one of those, yeah. You knew what I was thinking. But I guess you kind of felt the energy of a and don't make me get a cafeteria table. Because I'll get the big one and use it as a bat. And so, yeah. Just don't make me angry. I know myself. Don't make me get mad though. Don't do that. And they weren't the only ones. There was also Dan, Kenny, who defended a lot. Like, I actually wound up defending him a lot in high school. Like, and it was only like a semester that I wound up defending Dan Kenny more times than people I had in New Jersey, which was one of those, like, I had defended quite a few people in New Jersey. Some of them knew it, some of them didn't. But when it came to Dan Kenny, yeah. Yeah, I didn't care that if Eric from the football team was whoever, that didn't mean anything to me. Any time that went on, it was one of those, I don't know, what do I want to use? Do I want to use a cafeteria table, or do I want to use a locker set? Which one? I'd have fun with either one. Or you could just leave Dan Kenny alone. Like, or you could just do that, you know, in my thoughts, and I prefer you just leave them alone. It's personal preference. But if I have to get the cafeteria table, we'll get the bigger one next time. Found out later he was the lead quarterback of the football team. And I was like, yeah, but you know, you keep losing. So you being the lead quarterback, he actually had brought that up to me. He had said, well, I'm the head quarterback. Yeah, but you keep like not winning. And how many times has your passes been intercepted? I mean, I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like you know, whoop-de-doo, you're the head quarterback when you pass the football and it keeps getting intercepted by the opposite team, and then they're able to run the ball several yards. That's not really something you should be proud of. Just saying. But go ahead and go on about how you're the head quarterback. Yeah. I'm going to use an Anna term. That's nice. Though I had a few other words than just that's nice. I'm just going to use that's nice on the video aspect. Because I was fresh out of New Jersey at that point. I hadn't been out of New Jersey very long. So you can pretty much guesstimate exactly where that went. And the long list of words that were used, though very short in syllables. Just saying. What do you got out there? So, people in the state of Texas over the years that have said, you know, oh, Susan, or oh, Lady Dori, Belle, you use such like harsh language. Yeah, that one guy could probably give it and be like, no. Like, all you get told is like this. You don't know what she told me. And he still bucked up and then stopped. Nonetheless. Then he liked the fact that I had, you know, an attitude, and it's like, how much of a, what is wrong with you? Like, no, you're a mean person, and I don't like how mean you are. Like, no need for you to be mean to Dan Kenny or anybody, because it's not like it's just Dan Kenny that you're mean to. Just saying. But don't make me correct you. And so, so in that regard, despite what I was doing in those different aspects, at the same time, I was still preparing myself, because it was one of those, I need to be ready. I need to be like able to see clearly, and I need to know like this, and this. So that way, no matter what, when this moment comes, I am in the exact location where I need to be. Irony. I'm able to speak with who I need to speak with at the exact moment in time. Irony. And I need to be able to get that taken care of without any problems. Irony. And so after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000 and being in San Antonio, Texas during the day of 9/11 and speaking with who I spoke with, not just on that day, but for about the first month and a half afterwards, like every day. And at that time, I also wasn't on social media because of the, well, first and foremost, I didn't even know it existed. No offense to techie guys. I didn't know it existed. And not forgetting my issues with technology. Not forgetting that at all. And my focus was not there. My focus was making sure my son was taken care of, obviously, but also making sure that the guys I spoke with were able to essentially relay that information as they needed to the right people. So like the post office guy was able to speak with his post office people, and the tech sergeant guy, he was able to speak with not only his guys, but like whoever the higher ups were that, you know, in that regard. And then when hospitalized, as far as not just when my son was hospitalized and I stayed in the hospital room with him, but also when I was hospitalized a couple weeks later, because I could not fight off the infection anymore as far as after delivering my son. I just couldn't. And then later, the following year, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had kidney stones. And I know that I spoke with some individuals, and that I'll just leave it at that. So that way, you know, the video can be uploaded. And then there were the points where I was put on the morphine pump afterwards because the pain was so... Nobody wants kidney stones. Do not be jealous of being pregnant and having kidney stones on top of that. I mean, and it wasn't like I was just barely pregnant. Again, both pregnancies, I was huge. I was like 6 or 7 months when I was pregnant, when I had kidney stones. You kidding me? You kidding me? Nobody's, even people who have had kidney stones. I'm glad it wasn't when I was pregnant. For the females and then the males, you know, glad I can't get pregnant. Just saying, it's painful. And then, you know, as a quick little side note, I had this assistant or whatever after I had gotten the stent and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, she goes, oh, well, you know, you just have to pee into the bucket. And then, you know, you can be released from the hospital. And so, you know, I waddle over there because of how big and pregnant I was and then the amount of pain I was in. And then when I sit down, she looks at me, the female, and she goes, oh, you know, it might hurt a little bit, but, it might, you know, what people say is, that passing kidney stones hurts worse than giving birth. I looked up at her and I said, so my son that I delivered was in labor for 7 days. Are you going to tell me that passing kidney stones is going to be worse than that? Because if not, I'm not peeing. I'm not peeing at all. If peeing right now is going to be worse than when I delivered my son, no, nope. And then she just kind of looked at me. She goes, wait, what? Yeah, I was in labor for 7 days. You're telling me that is going to be less painful than peeing after kidney stones? Fuck you. I'm not peeing. I don't care. I'll pee up to my eyeballs. I don't care. I don't think so. No, that's going to be worse than delivering a child. And at that point, that female said, I'll be right back. I will go and get one of the other nurses to speak with you. Yeah, you better. She better tell me the truth. You tell me that it's going to be worse than delivering a child? What is wrong with you? She was fresh out of AIT. Fresh out of AIT. That was her first experience, I guess. Pop that cherry. Just saying. And so nurse comes in and she's like, yeah, I don't know what she told you, but she is scared of what your response was. So I told the nurse what the little 18-year-old said, and she was just like, yeah, no, she got that backwards. It's supposed to be less painful than delivering a child. And I was like, yeah, well, it better be. I only was in labor for 7 days with my son. I'm just going to throw that out there. And it was just, oh, I can see why she was scared now. It's like, yeah, you think? 7 days of labor? Yeah, like, you kidding me? Kidding me? Yes. Whole bunch of New Jersey words. Whole bunch of New Jersey words. Did not care I was in Lackland Air Force Base. Not like there's nobody in the military who hasn't heard those words. Air Force or not. Just gonna throw that out there. So, show me an Air Force airman that has not heard a few words. And so, or send them. And so, after, that, and during that time, even after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, I remembered that song. It's like, why is this song? Just why? 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 Why this song? Why? Why? And so, life continued and stuff like that. The song just kind of kept just nagging. Like, just nagging. It's why? Why this one song? Many songs have come forward since that point in time. Can understand them, but cannot understand this one song. Just one song. Cannot get it. I get it now. Get it. It's a little late, seeing how I first heard it in, 1998, and it's 2020. I'm just gonna throw this out there. It's been a couple of days. Just saying. I don't know how many days. I can't count that high. So, just saying. So, I'll get to the song. Don't think I'm not done. Just say. So, with the aspects of, in regards to 9/11 and doing what was necessary to make sure guys who needed the information got the information, while taking care of my son and later taking care of my daughter, because it's not like I didn't speak with soldiers on post about certain things. It wasn't like that stopped. Same thing when it came to when I was volunteering at 9 Lives Bookstore. I'd speak with the post office guys because of the online bookstore stuff. So I'd speak with the different post office guys and not just about daily stuff, but about, hey, have you thought about something like this to make sure you guys are safe? Have you thought about this to make sure you guys are squared away? It just didn't stop. And so, fast forward to beyond the aspects of that, and taking into consideration even certain aspects when it comes to my dead ex-husband and in regards to Fort Sam Houston. And not just, despite the fact that Brigadier General Gilman wanted to say, well, it's called the Warrior Transition Unit, and you're living in whatever. It's like, yeah, but Warrior Transition Unit here. There are plenty of other places that still use the term medical hold unit. And, I'm not denying there are certain aspects of having a past aspect issue, but at the same time, you're arrogant to call this only this when there's still medical hold units. And it's not like it's just the Army, by the way. you have to remember that, you know, are you going to tell me that you believe that only the Army guys are the ones who have warrior transition unit or medical hold? Don't try to sugarcoat that garbage to me. No. Don't. Do not. Do not do that. That's not going to work out in your favor. Just saying. There are still companies that are called medical hold unit or company. Yeah, maybe later they'll get the warrior transition unit title. Nonetheless, it's still the same premise, just a different name, no matter what. And yes, the guys know that they are broken. Yes, they know that at some point in time they have this. And not saying that they can't get better, but you have to take a look as to where they were before the injury that they sustained. And you giving that fluffy title aspect, it takes away certain things in certain references. Kind of like, well, the Black Beret. I was the only female that I knew, as far as like in the different areas that I had spoken with people, I was the only person, as far as a female, that was pissed off that the Black Beret was being taken away from the Rangers. I was pissed. Why couldn't you just give the tan beret to like all the other soldiers instead? Why'd you have to give them the tan beret? And then like, what about all the guys who actually earned their Black Beret? You're gonna go and reissue a tan beret so that, I mean, are you kidding me? And then what about the guys who are looking at these others that are like, oh, it looks like a pizza hat. Like, what type of garbage? Personal opinion. Just saying. Gotta get that little notch in there before you bend it the right way to just get that lines. That way it stands up just right. Technically shouldn't know that that is what it is. Nonetheless, I was the only person, as far as a female, that was fighting for the guys who earned the Black Beret to be able to keep that tradition. I mean, even my now dead ex-husband was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, no, it's not. Like, you said that you're a former Ranger. Shouldn't you be upset at the fact that, like, like the Ranger bats or battalions, you know, like, are you, throw a temper tantrum. So mad. It's technically not for me to be mad at by technicalities, because, you know, but still. Don't care. And they're so mad. And I know I wasn't the only one. I mean, Grandpa Nichols and we talked about that for hours. I went to Fort Worth one weekend, and, you know, of course, my ex-husband and husband was there, of course. And, you know, my children are playing around, and I'm talking with Grandpa Nichols. I'm like, can you believe this? Can you believe this? And he's just looking at me like, oh my God, you're so mad about a job that you cannot have. Yeah, that's beside the point. It's tradition. It's tradition. Earn that. So mad. Throw a temper tantrum. I don't care. And so, that is what it is. Anyway, I am the way I am. And a furthering example in regards to the BDSM LGBTQP swinger communities, in regards to the cover, a leather cover, you can see certain pattern of behavior similarities in that regard. And so in regards to calling it Warrior Transition Unit, I could see the aspects, and at the same time it's just one of those, but you are giving those guys a view that is more fluffified, and they of all they do need fluffiness, there's no denying that. At the same time, they don't need sugarcoating in that way. They need to be able to be prepared. And you going and saying this portion, I'm just saying, you know, not trying to be rude, but whatever rump-ringing fuck. I did say that to the general. I did. The brigadier general had no idea what to say to that, except for that he called me a royal fucking cunt. And that was his response. I was like, that's fantastic. Thanks for recognizing, but that don't change. You know I'm accurate. You know it. But hey, remember that. Remember this. Remember this. Remember where you're at right now. Look at what you're wearing. And then look who you're speaking with. Good morning. Yes, yeah, yeah, civilian. And you just called a civilian in your office. What? Good morning. Yeah. However, there is not any emails that I sent where I complained about that aspect. I do have to point that out. I did not ever. It wasn't that I was ashamed of it. It was just one of those I understood at that time. I understood that he was upset. And it's part of that military gruffness. I get it. Sometimes you just get so overwhelmed with certain things. Not like it's just a military thing. There are plenty of civilians, right? And so, just saying. And so, you know, I to this day, I'm not offended. To this day. And it's been a while. So, in that regard, you know, in reference to that song, even that, all the stuff to make sure those guys were squared away. And not just the Warrior Transition Unit or Medical Hold Unit, but even the guys that would be retiring out and being able to get stuff taken care of. Guys that were active National Guard reservists or new veterans or old veterans, it didn't matter. Making sure that they were able to be squared away, get themselves squared away. And so, you know, and at the same time bringing awareness to civilians who might not have known, and not in a disrespectful way, but in a respectful way where that they were able to be like, hey, pay attention. And so, and not just military, of course, because you got all the different divisions of government that deal with certain things. And so, law enforcement and so on and so forth. And that obviously includes post office guys, because to me, they're the equivalent of first responders, because some people want to admit it or not, you know, when you go to mail something, whether it's at the United States Post Office or UPS or FedEx or so on and so forth, who are you going to go to? You're going to go there. And go there in person, or you're going to have them come pick it up. You're going to get it at your mailbox. Whatever it is. You're going to, that's how it goes. And so while I understand that's not necessarily the most normal way to look at things, it goes back to that day where, you know, spoke with who I spoke with to make sure not just one aspect, but as many aspects were taken care of as best as they could be and as best as I could get to them. So, in a positive way, hopefully. Nonetheless, going in the aspects of making sure that they were taken care of where I could, and then as things occurred with my daughter, and in turn my son, because of McCoy Elementary School, despite that aspect. In certain ways, it was kind of almost not the exact same thing, but in some ways very closely related, obviously because of the individuals I dealt with, their personal issues with my children because of my background. And not just mine, I mean, obviously, I had informed the school district of my dead ex-husband, my children's biological father, and they had issues with the fact that he was even in the Army. It didn't matter about anything else. And so, okay, if you have a political disagreement as far as military, that's your choice. You just don't take it out on the children. That's how that goes. It's very simple. And so, then all that stuff. And then winding up in Washington State. And then in regards to my Medal of Honor art project. Now real quick, I'm going to show you a video. Real quick. Before I continue on with that. Because there is a correlation aspect to that song. So, let me pull it up. Because it's actually quite befitting in certain regards. Hold on. So, oh.
Shine
See
on you. May it be when darkness falls, your hope will be true. You won't.
So, in that regard of my Medal of Honor art project and getting to the point of the song. Not just military-wise, but also spirituality in that regard for the reference points of where I was respectful. I did everything I could to ensure the safety of not just what I was doing, not just of myself, not just of the Medal of Honor recipient spirits, as well as the spirits throughout each cemetery I went to, but also each city, each state, so on and so forth. I did what I could, no matter what, to make sure that there was never an issue, that I was always clear, that there was never any concern about that, that I would always, you know, as weird as that might sound, I didn't take into consideration at the times of the different trips, planning, any of that, that anybody would ever cause any issues to that, obviously. Looking back in a 2020 sort of way, in regards to, while there were different religions and spirituality backgrounds that had felt that there were certain issues that, and similarly to veterans and even active duty National Guard and reservists who felt certain things of concern, essentially that, you know, the red bobber type of thing, you know, and making sure that things were taken care of properly. And so, I could have fought the quarantine lockdown and still gone. I could have been, but that would have inevitably, in my opinion, enticed those individuals who had caused problems to my Medal of Honor art project to continue on. And so I made the conscious decision to not saying that I wanted to stop doing it at all. That's not it at all, of course. However, to ensure the safety of the different locations that I would inevitably travel through, as well as giving law enforcement of each branch and division time to review various aspects to ensure the safety of, and not just my Medal of Honor art project, but the traveling aspects and making sure the safety of no matter where I went. So that way that sort of stuff didn't continue being a problem. Now, in regards to that video aspect, I had to stop. I had to slow down. I had to get to the point of, okay, here you guys go. Please don't be mad at me, because I didn't know that anybody would be, the equivalent of doing that sort of stuff in regards to my Medal of Honor art project, because in my thoughts, who would be dumb enough? Who would be dumb enough to cause, issues to something like that? Who would be dumb enough to be disrespectful in a cemetery? Who would be stupid enough to be in a small town or even a large town? Doesn't matter. Cemeteries do not usually have a lot of visitors every single day. So, it's smaller than a small town usually, as far as that's in consideration. How many people on an average day wind up going to, that don't have family or relatives, specific. So, it's one of those, I didn't think anybody would be dumb enough. And I'm pretty stupid. I went from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math. So, I mean, in my thoughts, I didn't think anyone would be that dumb. Because, a cemetery has far less visitors than, even the smallest town in, the least populated state. I'm just saying, seriously, and obviously those small towns that I went through, whether I stopped at the gas station or got something to eat or just drove through, if the windows were down in the car, I have hair that does not camo at all whatsoever. And so, any vehicle that has a license plate that is not from that state, not forgetting, the driver, I didn't think anybody was that stupid to be oh, they go, I knew that I couldn't camo wherever I went, and that included a cemetery. I'm just saying, whether the cemetery was in a big city like Seattle or a small town like Heisey, Idaho. I'm just saying, I didn't think anybody was that stupid to be that disrespectful and think that they weren't going to get away with that. Or thought that they would get away with it, but they weren't gonna. I didn't think anybody was that stupid whatsoever. And I went from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to second grade math. Again, I'm dumb. I acknowledge that. I've been told that many times. I didn't need to be told how dumb I am. I know. And so it's one of those, in that regard, it's one of those, I didn't think anybody was that retardedly stupid to think that, seriously, when certain cemeteries have, less than, I'm just saying, look at the populations of the, I didn't even have to look at the populations for the most of the areas that I went to before I went. To be okay, well, I was already going to be respectful, but, I'm glad I was now, it's just one of those. Seriously, come on now. Boy, how dumb do you have to be? You can look as normal as you want. In a small town, you are not going to look normal. It don't matter. And in a cemetery of a small town, it doesn't take a heaven to figure that out. But apparently it does to explain it. And so, just saying, just pointing that out there. So, in regards to that song, I had actually called, what was it, 1-800 Country Music or something like that, pre-head injury and post-head injury about this song. I'm like, what does it mean? The song is by Garth Brooks and whoever helped him write that song. It's called The Dance. And I could not understand the lyrics. Because why? Why? I understand the lyrics now. Because if it wasn't for all the different things, and I'm not trying to take credit where it's not due or anything, because obviously all of the different guys, and not in the sexist way, just, East Coast term, right? All the guys who did what they did to do the stuff to get things safe and whatnot. If certain things didn't happen, that awareness would not have been brought. And so despite the fact that I am absolutely infuriated as to a whole bunch of stuff that occurred, for example, Montana trip and that several hour backup. What, nobody in the state of Montana can go online and order a drone remote control airplane thingamabob? I don't think so. Just saying. And there's no mountains that people will be out on and just be like, what's going on down there? I mean, just, and they don't even have to be from the state of Montana. They could have been just like rock climbing or whatever. Why is there such a big traffic backup? Click, click, click with their cameras that they're taking pictures of nature. And well, while I'm up here, click, click, click. I'm just saying. Just throwing that out there. But in regards to the song, the aspects of the individuals not necessarily having the direct proof in certain regards, they're able to have that proof now. Not only are they able to have the proof now, while my words may not be the most, organized at times, though able to at least get the information and points across as best as I can. I mean, obviously, that's like, here you go Congress, here you go Senate, here you go White House, here you go Pentagon, here you go FBI, here you go CIA. If that helps, and you guys can, put that together and be like, hey, to protect not just, my Medal of Honor Art Project, but the different locations of each Medal of Honor recipient that has passed. Just saying. And not just them, but, the aspects of, I know that in this era, the aspects of spirituality and religion have kind of had a backwards sort of thing, because how could certain things go on? How could these aspects be? Well, coming around full circle for those aspects to be taken care of. Because before 9/11 happened, it's not like it was just on 9/11 that people were having issues, right? It's not like before 9/11 there were problems when it came to certain things. So, I guess you can take a look at the song lyrics for The Dance and essentially look in the comparison of what I just discussed. I understand it now. And I cannot stand being late. I've been trying to figure that song lyric out all these years. All these years. I figured it out and I'm kind of upset at myself for being, just saying. However, making sure that that has been clarified. So that way, those who have had suspicions of other stuff that they have gone through, or situations, or other individuals' intentions, making sure the purity of, so on and so forth, that's able to make sense. And so, again, giving credit where it's due, because Congress does what Congress does, the Senate does what the Senate does, the Pentagon does what the Pentagon does, the FBI does what the FBI does, the CIA does what the CIA does, and, White House does what White House does, and Department of Justice, and so on and so forth, with the varying aspects of, throughout the different branches and divisions, bringing that, to a more clear understanding. And, everybody has their own choices they make, one way or another. And, I wouldn't change the fact that I got to do my Medal of Honor art project. I'm extremely infuriated about the cherubim ones, as I call them, but, I know I'm not the only one on that. At all. However, for the clarity of not just in regards to my Medal of Honor art project, but the people that, are in the label of cherubim ones, they exposed themselves to the compassionate, honorable, and righteous ones for who they were. And the actual drama and problems that they had been causing beforehand. And so that sort of clarity had been brought forward to all those different individual groups in the smaller and larger sort of way. And where, I am far from perfect because I make mistakes and stuff like that, I at least own up to my mistakes. And in comparison to causing problems, I tend to prefer to fix them and repair them, so that way that can be better, not just for myself, not just for my son, not just for my daughter, but for everybody. So it's more, you still have your different choices that you are free to make, but you are aware of the possible consequences. Good, bad, and indifferent. Consequences doesn't always mean negative. There are positive consequences. There are indifferent consequences. And yes, obviously there are negative consequences. However, the intent is of importance as well. And so, while I wouldn't change the fact that I did my Medal of Honor art project, there's not anything I can say that I would genuinely have changed as far as what I did. I can't look back on what I've done thus far and genuinely find something that I would have done differently, because the outcome, yes, would have essentially been different, but it wouldn't have been a better outcome. Realistically. So, I also can't control everybody else's responses, of course. You wouldn't be able to be a human being. You wouldn't have humanity. Everybody would be as simple as a robot instead, and everybody has the right to their own thoughts, feelings, and opinions. And so, in that aspect, there's not a point in my life, from what I can remember pre-head injury, nor after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, that I can think of that would be different if I could go back and change it. But no matter where, in various situations and times, I enjoyed what I was doing. I mean, not all aspects, but there is not a moment with my son and my daughter that I can say, even when, they had done, being children, did something wrong and they had to be lectured and that sort of stuff. Even that, they were educated. They were taught and stuff like that. I can't regret that because it was still time with my children and they got to ask questions even when they were in trouble. And so no matter what, obviously there were far more positive time frames in that regard. But, I wouldn't change the fact that I did what I could to protect my children when they were younger. When it comes to my now dead ex-husband, I wouldn't change the fact that I was as respectful as I was. I wouldn't change the fact that when people started to come at me, I wouldn't change my response as far as what was said. Because if I was completely accurate, as, I guesstimate, I was nice in comparison. Just saying. But I also wouldn't have been able to, if I had gone to a different extreme, than where I could get individuals' information so that way they could make an assessment for themselves, I wouldn't have been able to. And so, no matter what, I was at some point listening to music, and there is nobody that can truthfully say that didn't see me at those times. Cannot say I wasn't dancing at some point when the music came on. It didn't matter if I was in my car. It didn't matter where I was going to dance. Just saying, maybe not the particular dance I would have preferred. Nonetheless, I was still dancing. And so, I get it now. Irony. So, you guys have a good one. Subscribe to my channel, Reverend MeeLing, official, all that. Go to my website. And you guys have a good one. Brightest of blessings.